to North Reading's annual Veterans Day ceremony. Each year, on the 11th month, 11th day, at precisely the 11th hour, we gather here in the Common in honor of the men and women who have chosen the path to defend the borders of these United States. This is an historic day and time of remembrance for those valorous Americans who continue to serve today, and for those who have served with courage and conviction throughout the generations. Please stand while Reverend Dr. Richard Hughes of the Union Congregational Church delivers the innovation of our ceremony.
Would you pray with me? God of this nation and all the nations and peoples of the world, we give you thanks today for the courage and sacrifices of the men and women who have offered military service for this country, for those who have fought for freedom, for those who have laid down their lives that others may live, for those who have borne suffering of mind or of body. God, in your mercy and love, we thank you for their sacrifices. On our behalf, O God, may many have entered into danger, endured separation from those they love, and experienced hardship in war and in times of peace. God, in your mercy and goodness, we thank you for their lives and their dedication. And today we ask you to watch over those who are now serving in dangerous places far from home. Let your spirit of healing be upon our veterans who are recovering from their wounds, and hold safely in your hands the families that are waiting even now for a joyous reunion when their sons and daughters are able to come home. Give to us, your people, grateful hearts and the will to honor the sacrifices of our veterans as we continue to strive to be a nation that lives out our calling to be a nation under God, of liberty and justice for all. Amen.
North Reading High School Band, under the direction of Eric Foreman and drum major Jeremy Colbert-Susi, will now present us with Washington Post by John Philip Sousa. nation's colors, presented by the Marine Corps Color Guard, Headquarters Company, 25th Marine Regiment of Fort Devens. Please remain standing while North Reading's Boy Scout Troop 750, Girl Scout Troop 71890, and the Venture Crew 291 lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by North Reading's Community Chorale Group performing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red flame, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated for the town proclamation and remarks by Board of Selectman Michael Prisco.
Whereas, on Veterans Day, America comes together in honoring our veterans. To commemorate the legacy of our honor, pride, courage, and sacrifice, they have upheld and safeguarded the very principles this nation was founded. And whereas this selflessness of our warriors today is unmatched, excuse me, our forefathers in continuing to carry on the values and traditions that were instilled through the generations. Whereas on this day, we take the time to reflect, pray for our warriors who have sacrificed the ultimate. Continue to keep them and their families in your prayers. For those warriors have held captive, missing in action, many their fate still unknown. Continue to pray for their safe return and peace to their loved ones. And whereas we thank the families of our veterans and warriors for the sacrifices they have made. They worked hard to maintain normalcy within the family unit while their loved ones is in harm's way. They lived with fear of the unknown each day while the warrior continues to face the adversity of war, and whereas we continue to educate our young through involvement in action and importance of honor, respect, and appreciation for valor and sacrifice of our veterans and warriors. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed by the Board of Selectmen of the Town of North Reading that all citizens observe the 11th day of November 2013 with appropriate ceremony and prayer in honor of our veterans and warriors whose steadfast desire was, through valor and sacrifice, to preserve the principle of justice, freedom, and democracy. We encourage you to continue to display the American flag with pride on your homes, offices, and town buildings. I would like to thank our honored guest speaker, Second Lieutenant Sutton Moulton, Reverend Hughes, Susan Magner, Veterans Day Committee members, and all those who gathered here today to honor the men and women of our armed forces, both past and present. It is a privilege and an honor to be here on this special day to honor our veterans and their families, humbled by their bravery and significant sacrifice, and grateful for their service. Today we extend our sincere thanks. It makes me proud on this day, in this month, at this time. Our nation recognizes the service and the sacrifice of our nation veterans. North Reading is grateful for our veterans and all who have fought for our freedom. A few years ago, I visited Arlington National Cemetery and went to the tomb of the unnamed soldier. There's an engraving on the tomb, which I'd like to read to you. Here rest in honored glory an American soldier, known but to God. I mentioned this because as I was writing this speech, it dawned on me that we have 24 million Americans who strengthen our nation with their example of service and sacrifice every day, who are unknown to many of us, many of whom give their lives for peace and freedom, and for that I'm eternally grateful. There is no mystery behind the endurance and success of American liberty. It is because in every generation, from Revolutionary War to this very hour, brave Americans step forward and serve honorably in the armed forces. Every one of them deserve our thanks and admiration of our entire town and country. As for today, we live with new threats and security, to our security and our prosperity, and we've got to overcome the cynical voices that America's best days are behind us. It is if there is anything that veterans have taught us, it is that there is no threat we cannot meet, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. So I ask each of you here today, every time you see an American flag get raised, or you hear a bugle sound taps, remember, men and women, America's armed forces serving a great cause, and pledge your support to our veterans and their families, and offer sincere thanks and gratitude. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen and our entire community, I want to thank those of you who worked so hard to make this event possible, and to thank all our veterans, those living and deceased, for their courage and their service and sacrifice, and for defending our freedom and way of life. May God bless our community, our country, and may God bless all who defend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bristow. Please stand while the Marine Corps retires our nation's colors. We will now hear from our high school band performing Military Escort by Harold Bennett. scheduling conflicts, State Representative Brad Jones Jr. is unable to join us. Senator Bruce Tarr has an extensive schedule today and is hoping to join us later in the ceremony for refreshments. Ray Rivera, former Army Staff Sergeant and Iraq War veteran, served in the United States Army for over 8 years. He and his wife Shannon recently moved to North Reading. Ray works with veterans and is here to share with you his involvement. His wife Shannon has brought to North Reading a talent which she would like to share with all of you. Please welcome Staff Sergeant Ray Rivera and Shannon.
Reserves, and their families. It is because of all of your brave and courageous acts that we as citizens get to live each day in a free country and get to sleep each night knowing that we are being protected by such wonderful, courageous, strong men and women of the United States military. So again, thank you. As she said, my name is Shannon Rivera. I'm wife of Staff Sergeant Ray Rivera. That's part of a military family life. Everyone is welcome, and we are hoping to get that started within the next month or so. Lastly, I would like to extend an offer to all our veterans and military. As an owner and a resident of North Reading, I own Through My Lens Photography located at 50 Main Street, Suite 100. Has no limitation or restriction. It is for what you choose. Whether it's to be a holiday photo, engagement, family, or just a picture to send to your loved one to say hello. I hope you all come and see me in the studio or a location of your choice. Please feel free to see me after the ceremony for more detailed information. Again, I would like to extend my thanks for all of your bravery and honor, and for letting us continue to be the land of the free, because you are our home of the brave. Thank you.
Good morning, North Reading. As my lovely wife said, I am Staff Sergeant Ray Rivera. I spent a good amount of time in the military, born and raised in a military family. Before anything further, I'd like to everybody take a look around you and look at the most important thing that stands here before us, and that's the red, white, and blue in the wind. It's wavering because these fine young men and women in front of you in uniform, these gentlemen out here out back and women, have sacrificed more than just their time. They've sacrificed their blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that those colors continue to wave in the wind when we have bad days, good days, and when we know there's something to come in the future that's going to make our country stronger and better than it was today. North Reading's finest is also here to represent us. They are part of our great law enforcement community that we have here in the state of Massachusetts. And I thank you for your presence. One of the things that we seem to forget and lose focus on as Americans is that there's a community in this country of young men and women that are fighting to protect our borders and allow us to have a blanket of security while we sleep. Without that blanket of security, there wouldn't be much of this country left. Regardless of our economy status, our social well-being, how much we can Facebook and Twitter, and how many days we can get up and go to work. My point's exact. Somebody's phone's going off. Facebook and Twitter, right? Thank you, Mary. With all of those things that we have today, it would not make an ounce of difference if, as I said before, these young men and women here and these fine folks behind us wouldn't have stood up to tyranny, oppression, or threats to our domestic borders that might not allow us to continue as the greatest nation on this earth. Every day, 22 veterans take their lives. Not just a few, but 22. That's 22 men and women that have given their all to this country and have lost their way, have lost their willpower and their desire to go on because we as a nation have failed them. There is no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to ease the guilt trip that we may go by the statement that I'm making now. But the fact is that as a nation we have a responsibility, not just to our men and women in uniform now, but to those that have worn it so proudly. Every day we come across somebody that we know or think about somebody that we used to know, whether they be a friend or a loved one that has been in uniform. We cannot know what they think of, how they feel, how they sleep, or most of the time do not sleep due to the images, the sacrifices, and the heartaches that they've endured to make sure that we have days like today. So please today take a moment and say thank you. Not for what they're doing now or what they're going to do, but more importantly for what they've done. They've volunteered their time. Those that know that we've had drafts in the past with our different conflicts across the globe know that the draft is merely a way to say you're volunteering. The reason for that is, though many of the Vietnam veterans we have here, back here behind us today, standing so proudly, and by the way, if I would have been with you at that time, I would have stood proudly and fought with you guys side by side. They were drafted, but guess what? They volunteered to stay for the draft. Many of them did not. They went to different countries. They decided to enroll in college so they can avoid it, but they chose to stay. So yes, they volunteered to fight for our country, as these men and women here did in front of us. Those 22 members that we lose a day amounts to such a large number of our community and members that can be productive in our society and workforce. It is a shame to see them go, and it's a sad loss to our nation. Think, out of all the men and women here that have gone and fought overseas and have stood ground to make sure that we have a prosperous country, some of them that are here now may lose their way. But we right now, right here, have a choice to make sure that they do not lose their way, that they know that there's someone here for them throughout the good and the bad. Be sure and know deep in your heart that without them standing where they're standing now, you would not be standing here. We owe it to them. We owe it to ourselves to show that we have gratitude for what they've done and what they continue to do. Their vacancy should not be. Their loss should not happen. Their homeless status should not be. They should not be hungry. They should not be without employment. Small business owners need to understand and hear that without those men and women that have fought for us, they would not have the companies and the success that they have now. Find room in your companies to have these gentlemen and these women employed so that they can feed their families when they come home from their tours of duty. Whether they're retired of 20 years or have had 2 years in the military, they have made a choice to protect you. Let's make a choice to protect them. I volunteer for an organization called Operation Homefront. I don't give a lot of time to the organization as much as I could and should. There's always time. Operation Homefront is an organization that does not ask for compensation for their services. Merely, they ask that we spread the word and let them know that there is someone there to help these men and women. I became a volunteer with Operation Homefront because their organization was gracious enough to help my family and I when I needed a little push to get me going forward. Operation Homefront is not only in North Reading or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but across the country and also overseas to the military installations that our young men and women are at now. If you go to the website operationhomefront.com, you will find that there's plenty of information there, and lead somebody there that you may think may need help. A spouse with a member that's overseas, somebody that was in the service and has financial difficulties, or needs to have better medical care, or an advocate for something they may need right now for their family. That's a service that Operation Homefront provides. North Reading is not as strong as it should be with veterans, and neither is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but we will continue to make those steps to do so. Every day that veterans come home, we become stronger innately. But we need to make a push as a community to embrace these men and women when they come home and those that are already here. Because, know it or not, everyone here at some point or another needs their help and has needed their help. Whether you've touched them, shaken their hand, spoken to them, or you've seen the stories on TV, we are all affected by the men and women in uniform. Today, before you go down and lay your heads to sleep and wonder how your day has gone, think of this. There's somebody right now that has their eyes open for you, that has their heart on focus for you, and is giving their emotion and their physical ability to the utmost to assure that when you do fall asleep tonight, you wake up to a better America. That is what we do here in this country. We stand up for what we believe in, we fight for what is right, and we support our veterans. Remember, without them, this country does not exist and shall not continue. Support them, thank them, find a spot in your heart to have a little understanding of what they do for you and continue to do for this great nation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray and Shannon. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, our honored guest is Captain Seth Moulton of the United States Marine Corps. Captain Moulton was born in Salem, Massachusetts, and raised in Marblehead until high school, when he was accepted by Phillips Academy in Andover. After graduating from Harvard in 2001, Seth joined the United States Marine Corps and was commissioned as second lieutenant in March 2002. He served 4 tours of duty in Iraq between 2003 and 2008. Captain Moulton served his first 2 tours as infantry platoon commander in 2003 and 2004. In 2003, he commanded his platoon during the invasion and early reconstruction efforts, and he was a part of the 1st Company of Marines into Baghdad. In 2004, he commanded an infantry platoon during the Battle of Najaf, which saw the fiercest fighting during the war at that time. In 2005, Seth served as a special assistant to General David Patrice, working with tribal leaders in the Sunni tribe. triangle. Seth left active duty in 2006, but was called back by General Patrice in 2007 to assist in the surge from 2007 to 2008. Since leaving active duty in 2008 as a captain, Seth graduated from Kennedy School and Harvard Business School. He is currently serving as Vice Chairman of Eastern Healthcare Partners and running as a Democrat to represent Massachusetts' 6th Congressional District. His parents, brother, and sister all reside in Massachusetts. Please give a warm welcome to Captain Seth Moulton.
Thank you very much. I think for any veteran here, when I was earlier referred to as a second lieutenant, you were worried that the program was heading downhill fast. There's not much that a second lieutenant can offer for advice. But I did serve for a while in Iraq, and it was a great opportunity, and I'm glad to be here today. I share the honor of having served with a lot of people, many of whom are represented here today. And they're not all in the military either. Teachers, police officers, firefighters and volunteers, public servants all across the country. We make a choice to serve when they could do a lot of other things. And I think that all of us share something in common when we honor veterans today. I've put on my uniform again twice recently. I'm going to speak briefly today about what each of those times has meant. The most recent was on Friday night. There's a great birthday tradition in the United States Marine Corps, and today was, yesterday was the 238th anniversary of the founding of the United States Marine Corps. The vast majority of those years have been spent in combat. In fact, in 47 out of the last 50 years, U.S. Marines have been in combat overseas. The last ball that I had celebrated prior to the one this week was in Iraq, and it was interrupted by mortar fire halfway through. But while it interrupted our meal, it only strengthened our spirit, and it is certainly one birthday celebration I will never forget. The 12 years after the beginning of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and 10 years since the invasion of Iraq today, there are a lot of things about this war that have become forgettable. It's easy to forget what's going on overseas right now, that there are still troops deployed in harm's way. In dark corners of the globe, in Helmand Province in Afghanistan. This short press release from the Department of Defense from a few days ago is all we have this morning to remember Sergeant First Class Forrest Robertson of Westmoreland, Kansas, who died in Pul-e-Alam, Afghanistan, from small arms fire. Or the one behind it, the most recent death of a Marine in Afghanistan, Lance Corporal Christopher Grant, 20 years old, of Richwood, Louisiana. As the war drags on and we continue with our lives here at home, it's so easy to forget what is happening far across the globe. And I think it's even easier to forget what's going on right here around us when so many of our veterans have to transition home to their families, struggling to rebuild their lives after long deployments and tough transitions. And that brings me to the second time that I put on my uniform recently. And it was because of a young man named James Hassel. James served in my platoon in 2004. And during a particularly tough day in the JAF, when we followed a special forces platoon into a building to get them out after they'd have had serious casualties. And the insurgents on the second floor were throwing grenades out the windows and rolling them down the stairs. A young man named Ryan Borgstrom on, was grievously wounded. We were almost trapped in that building, the insurgents on the second floor, and machine gun fire in the streets. But James Hassel put Ryan on his back and carried him over 50 yards through terrible gunfire to bring him to safety. Ryan, nonetheless, almost died, but after many surgeries, he recovered. And there is no question among anybody there that day that James Hassel saved his life. But James wasn't done. When he got out of the Marine Corps, like many veterans, he wanted to continue serving. And so he got out, he found a wonderful wife and a beautiful daughter. I've never seen anyone more proud of his daughter than James. And he went to nursing school because he wanted to help those who are hurting. He wanted to continue serving Americans. And he worked hard to get his degree and to enter and to continue in a life of public service. But about a month ago, James, at the age of 30, had a heart attack. He had a heart attack from the medicines that he was prescribed by the VA. Medicines to counter his post-traumatic stress. Some people think he might have OD'd, but the reality is he was just taking the prescription drugs he was prescribed totally because the VA didn't give him the counseling resources that he really needed. But this isn't just a story of the VA letting James down. This is a story of America letting all of us down because James wasn't done with his service. He wanted to continue serving, and he was continuing to serve. He's an example of the tremendous service that so many veterans can offer this country. You know, the Greatest Generation did not get its title, the Greatest Generation, in 1945 when they came home from the war. They only got that title about 20 years ago. Not just because of what they had done in war, but because of what they had done in peace. Today, we have to do better for veterans like James, and if we do, America will become a better and stronger country. Like so many others who serve in countless ways, who enter into public service when they could make a lot more money, and a lot more glory, or a lot more fun doing other things. They make this country a better place. And we're all stronger when more of us serve. So today on Veterans Day, I ask that we remember not just how important veterans service has been in the past, but how much we need it now, and how much we'll need it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Seth Moulton. The North Reading High School Band will now play The Thunderer by John Philip Sousa. Guard, Headquarters Company, 25th Marine Regiment, Fort Devens. Sergeant Jason Barrett, Sergeant Jesse Mudd, Corporal Thomas Gallant, and Corporal Lincoln West. The National Guard, 272nd Chemical Company, from Camp Curtis Gold, Staff Sergeant Thomas Russo, Staff Sergeant Dorothy Anderson, Sergeant Victoria Baushane, Specialist Daniel Hinshin, Specialist Michael Cotton, Specialist Christy Rebideau, Specialist John Gomez, Specialist Stephanie Stratoli, Private First Class Diego Texera, Private First Class James Connor Myers, Private First Class Renee Millette, Private First Class Zachary Zero. I would like to thank you, Reverend Dr. Richard Hughes, Captain John Richard in the North Reading Minute Militia, Commander Arthur Cole in the VFW Post 10874, DAV Chapter 37, Senator Bruce Tarr and State Representative Brad Jones, Jr., Board of Selectmen, Chairman Sean Delaney, Mike Prisco, Robert Rusheri, Steve O'Leary, and Joseph Foddy, Town Administrator Greg Bulakonis, North Reading Police Chief Michael Murphy and Police Honor Guard, Fire Chief William Warnock and North Reading Fire Department, Patriot Guard Riders, John Watson, Jane Regan for the Freeze, Parks and Recreation for Sound and Equipment, Eric Foreman, Band Director, Drum Major, Jeremy Colbrick-Susi, Matthew Palucci, Ashton Parker McDermott, and the North Reading High School Band. I would like to thank the North Reading Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Venture Crew. I would also like to thank Mary Prenny, Gloria Mastro, Millie Lytle, Kathy Marr, Kathy Gabrian, Heavenly Donuts, and the Horseshoe Grill, and Girl Scouts for supplying refreshments. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to join us in honoring those who have served and remembering those who have continued to keep us safe. God bless our veterans and warriors. I would also like to thank you, Ray and Shannon Rivera, for coming to speak with us. Mr. Tarr, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much and good morning. And I know that it's late in the program and I apologize for arriving late from other services and some of the other communities in our area, but I did want to take a moment to say thank you. To say thank you to the Office of Veterans Services here in North Reading, the selectmen, the management of the town, the police department, the fire department who give us our public safety each and every day, our veterans organizations that remind us of the nobility of service on behalf of the ideals that make our nation the greatest nation on the face of this earth, to the scouts and the students and the band that inspires us with incredible music, and most of all of us who join in this sacred place as Americans to remind ourselves and recommit ourselves to support for those who have served us so well, those who have never failed to answer the call when freedom and democracy were at risk, at home, abroad, and sometimes in places that many of us had not heard of until a conflict arose in those places. And to say thank you to the men and women who have given life to those ideals that make us a great nation, and the families that have supported them. And to say that we all must march forward together in support of our veterans and their families, as each and every time they have stepped forward and put themselves in harm's way to support us. Today we are poised in the Massachusetts legislature to pass important legislation. We have always led this country in support for our veterans, and we did so just a year ago with the passage of something called the Valor Act. It was intended to help with things like education and employment. And today, the House, through the leadership of Representative Jones, and the Senate have each of a second Valor Act to make sure that we are in the forefront of supporting our veterans in this country. And that act will include many important provisions. I won't list them all here today. But many of them involve trying to have better health care, trying to address housing needs because too many veterans in this country are homeless, and trying to address the very, very sad and unacceptable situation of veteran suicide. That's an issue that we have to address and we have to confront. And we will do it together. We will do it together because we, as people of this great state, recognize the importance of standing up each and every time to support our veterans, as they have stood up each and every time to defend us. So let us, on this great and beautiful day, in the beauty of the sunshine in this special place, recommit ourselves to that outstretched hand to shake a hand of a veteran, to a warm smile, to a long overdue welcome home to some, but to all, a recommitment that your needs will be our needs and our needs will be met, because as a community, all of us are committed to our veterans. God bless them, and God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tarr. I would like to once again call upon Reverend Dr. Hughes to deliver the benediction.
Now, Lord, as we have paid tribute to veterans, we ask you to bless them and keep them. Make your face shine upon them and be gracious unto them. Lift up your countenance upon them and all of us, and grant us your peace. Amen.
The North Reading Community Chorale will now sing God Bless America.
Just a small sampling of the membership of the North Reading Community Chorale. We would really like it if you joined us in singing God Bless America.
Thank you, Jill, for emceeing this for us.